Hello and welcome to From Dreams to Reality, a Business Tale podcast series. I am your host, Jerry Covella, and today I am joined by Min Kyriannis, who is co-founder of AMYNA Systems, located in Hackensack, New Jersey. You are in store for quite an entrepreneurial story today from Min, and you will love the information that we're sharing. So, Min, welcome today. Thank you
Thank
for
you.
joining us. Let's start it off. Tell us a little bit about yourself, as
Sure.
much about yourself as you would like, because you have some great stories to tell. And tell us a little bit about your company and how you got into that business venture.
Sure, of course. Thank you, Jerry, for having me. It's really, really pleasure meeting you and everybody who's listening in. I should have made you say the name, my last name in Greek. I'd have been really hysterical, but I'll leave that out. I've been in the tech space for about 30 years now. Actually, I should say 20 years, so that way it doesn't give my age away that much. But really, I've been in the deep tech space, really starting off running cables and learning technology. I've always had a love for technology and really doing a lot of computer work, hands-on work, running cables, punch downs, you name it, and really have a fascination with technology. I mean, fast forward 10 years later, I got bored of it, yeah, like anyone who really don't have anyone to talk to, but other than your computer and when you're programming and you're debugging, and it doesn't react the same way a human being does. You kind of break stuff. So I broke 3 computers because of that, and then decided to leave the technology field. And then, obviously did a lot of other eclectic things such as catering, did some modeling. But then fast forward a year after that, a old colleague ended up looking for me to come back to work, and because he and I had a good rapport and we just started working together. And he's like, "Oh, we have a position over. We'd love for you to come back because you're technical, you understand this stuff, you catch on quick. Why do you do this?" So I went back and, ended up going into security, which really was an interesting field and always kept me on my toes. I love understanding what people are doing for risk management, ran a SOC, ran a NOC, and that's a security operations center and network operations center. And really, it kind of gave me a different insight into what the world was. And because of that, I had the opportunity to meet a lot of people across different industries and decided to leave that position, which is 25 years in, or actually 20 years in, and then really pursued into the private arena, the private enterprises, where I actually ended up heading the cybersecurity division, really co-writing, or actually writing the first specifications for construction management in cybersecurity, which really looked at all the building systems and ensuring that building systems had cybersecurity built in. So if you think about the early 1990s when IT first came in with the internet, internet boom, right? People were, oh my God, IT is the best big thing and everything else. So it became a utility. Cyber was the same thing. And so, went in, wrote the specifications. And what was fascinating about it was such a bifurcated world because coming from my world where we always talked about technology for so many decades, we called it network security. People never paid attention to it. It's not until recent times that people are like, oh, cybersecurity is big. We have to start looking at it because everything is so connected. Well, yeah, that's what we said 30 years ago. So, in this new era, it's a huge thing. And so where AMYNA comes in now is we really develop technology that focuses on OT cybersecurity, which is really looking at critical infrastructure or, enterprise systems and your IoT devices. So if we're talking about critical infrastructure, we're talking SCADA, Modbus, building automation systems. So that's something that people don't typically hear about. But if you want to look at the common areas that people think about in terms of critical infrastructures and OT, your television systems, your conferencing systems, your physical security systems, your lighting systems, your thermostats, your heating systems, all of them are now becoming more interconnected. And that's what we build out technology around to actually protect.
Cutting edge stuff, right? And like you said, the conversation has been around for decades, as you said, but it really is coming to the forefront. The majority of the general public, we understand, the need to protect ourselves, data, infrastructure, and such against any threats. And I'm so intrigued with what you're doing. For your business, tell us a little bit about your ideal clients. Like who do you serve?
So I serve really mostly the enterprise, the government, critical infrastructure like your water treatment plants. I work around those lanes, but we also fit into other areas like healthcare, right? You have your medical technology is now being an IoT sitting on your network now, and that has to be protected because think about what's being sitting there. That's constantly under attack as well. We can set in sensors. We can work with transportation, satellites. But for the focus of the company to this day right now, we're actually dealing with the lower hanging fruit, which is really the prop tech side, the commercial real estate, the critical infrastructure in the government, because really that's where the need is. And also, secondly, in the geopolitical world that we're in right now, as we look at the news, every time we turn on the news, we see stuff. We're thinking about things like national security. What happens if our electrical grid comes down? What happens if our water treatment plant goes down? Or if the formula on the water treatment plant gets compromised like a few years ago? Luckily that didn't happen, but you're talking life safety here. So we are looking at it from the perspective of the lowest hanging fruit, but also where we need to target, quickly, because in these uncertain times, it's something that we really need to look at. So yeah, it's really, really important.
Yeah, it certainly is. I want to kind of go back to the launch of your business, and I believe you said it was 2020
Yes.
that you launched your company. Let's talk a little bit about, from an entrepreneurial side, the challenges that you faced in putting this together, the launch, maybe some advice for entrepreneurs that are out there. Let's
Sure.
bring some common sense to launching a business.
It's not as easy as it looks. Let's put it that way. I had a lot to learn, and I was very fortunate enough to actually had, engagements with other folks who were really becoming advisors to me at the same time. And I had to really the, I would say, and the envy of actually meeting the right people at the right time. And so I'm not the smartest person in the world. I know where my strengths are. I know where my weaknesses are. But I think for coming from where I am, looking at it and looking back in 2020 when we were still in stealth mode, and I was, we because we were building the technology from ground up, it was something really quiet, and it was something that hasn't been done yet. So we have to be very, very quiet in terms of actually launching it. That being said, I had the fortune of meeting quite a bit of people, which is phenomenal. And, the other co-founder that came in was really filling a gap that I didn't have, which is really the business acumen. She's been in that space for a long time. I have not been in that space. I've always been in the technical space, running teams and understanding operations. But there's an aspect to it that people don't typically understand, is the startup world. What do you need to do in order to build the foundation of the business? I was already in bed and ingrained in an organization that had the business built. So I never saw the bottom up yet. That led to a lot of learning experience, and really kind of engaging myself in a way where I was open to learn, or open to constructive criticism, and really, just taking it in and really improving myself, so that way we can actually launch the business successfully and really enable the business to grow successfully because of that. So for me, it was really keeping an open mind and surrounding myself really with smart people, smarter than me sometimes. I'll put it that way. But really, it's really accepting that, and that there will be people that are smarter than you that can help you out and actually guide you in the right proper way. And that's really what launched AMYNA, is having that kind of circle, inner sanctum of circle and friends that can actually help you and guide you appropriately as you kind of move in step by step as you start launching your business.
Yeah, what really resonated was that, yeah, as you said, we need to know where our lane is, right, and stay
Yeah.
within our lane. And I think that's a critical aspect of launching the business. Sometimes business owners go very wide and figure, oh, I'll learn as I go.
No,
I
you
I
can't.
right. I support your theory on finding the brightest people,
Yeah.
and generally we want to look for people that are smarter than us. I love that aspect. It elevates all of us, right? We all want to learn, and we learn together.
100%. But it's also knowing where you need the gaps and to fill in the gaps, right? You don't want to find a person that's similar to you, because, then you have two people who are competing for the same thought process. And it's
Mhm.
really knowing where that lane is. Like, what are you strong at? You deal with that lane. And then I need to fill this gap here, and let's fill that gap so that we find the right people that can fill that void that we need.
Absolutely. So tell us a little bit about the team. How many members on your team? I
Um,
know you also have support people
I
that
do.
offer advice to you, and that is a great thing in a business model. So talk
Yeah.
about that whole concept.
So we have a full-time data scientist. I have a chief strategy officer now, and then we have just recently who's also the co-founder. We also recently onboarded the chief operating officer, and then I have a head of sales. It's not a big team. It's a team of five and a half and a dog, if you want to call it that way. But we actually are, everybody is all hands on deck. Everybody rolls their sleeves up and do everything that they need to actually keep the business going. And that's exactly what we're doing. We just recently signed our first contract earlier this week, which is great. But I think really it's just kind of just taking it with a grain of salt and just keep moving one step at one foot at a time. You just keep going. You don't give up.
Just a little bit more. I see on your website you're also there. You have some consultants that
We
work with you.
do our
Yeah.
advisory board. So I have a very So because of my relationship with a lot of companies out there, and there's a lot of very interesting people. So our advisor board is actually kind of built up of different kind of personalities and people of different experiences. I have one gentleman, he came from the printing world at one point, but he's heavily involved. He's the chair of the Federal Enforcement Homeland Security Foundation, which I'm also on the board of, which really looks at helping the federal law enforcement officers in their needs of crisis, your times of crisis, when they're either hurt or killed in an incident. They actually provide grants within 24 to 48 hours if that happens. And so he's been the chair of that board for a long time. Another gentleman who's on our board, John, he came from the three-letter agency. He would have to be shot if I have to, no, I'm kidding, it's on our site. But he ran, in the three-letter agency for a very, very long time, very well respected in the realm. And, he's a good friend as well. And another gentleman, Dino, he's a friend as well, really, really old friend, who's invented a lot of technologies that we use today in this world. And so he's became a good advisor and a friend just to kind of help us through these different hoops of challenges that we didn't think we encountered. And, with technology, it evolves constantly. So, having people like that can kind of give us what's going on in the world is very helpful for us to actually develop new technology, develop new ideas, and really allows us to focus on the markets that we really need to focus on.
Thank you for that information about the team. It sounds like a powerful group of people.
Well, we have more that we can't list. Let's just put it that way. There's a few others that we're working out details on right now. One for the aerospace industry, another one actually that works on Capitol Hill.
Strategic
Yeah.
partnerships, I would say.
Very
Too.
strategic partnership is what I like to call them. Yes.
Yeah, good for you. Busy people, I'm sure. Let's transition a little bit to a big topic that we always talk about: work-life balance.
Haha. What's work? What's life?
Yeah, let's go into this a little.
Oh my God.
So,
All right.
your thoughts on this, the challenges that we face, and some personal insight.
Can I
It
lie
sounds like
about it? Can I lie? No, I won't lie. So,
yeah.
so I'm a mother. I have two young daughters. I'm a wife. I'm a, I do a lot of things. I volunteer. I sit on boards. I actually do a lot of things. And I also work with NGOs, policies on the policy thinking side, helping folks develop that, which is really, really fascinating. But I will say this, I came from the other side of the tracks where I never had the privilege of anyone mentoring me. So, and it's really a fight for survival at those times. I grew up in an environment where my parents didn't have money. So we weren't privileged like what my kids are today. So I really worked hard. My husband really supported that as well, and to get to where I am today. So I've been on the other side. Um, where I've actually come to terms with it, where I've been shot, I've been stabbed, I've been through a lot, and so those experiences have allowed me to give me the strength to be where I am today. Now that I have kids of my own, I look at it very differently, in a very different different type of lens, which is really, I want my kids to see and actually not experience, but also allow them a different lens into the world that I grew in, by creating a world and giving them the opportunity that I didn't have, but also forcing them, not forcing them, I won't say forcing them, but giving them the opportunity to kind of see my work at the same time. So I ask them to participate. I try to have these conversations with them. It's a very difficult challenge, work life. And I'm not a super mom by any means. There are days I get frustrated, but I'm also an insomniac and I love to work. So it is a very, very hard, I would say work life is really where you want to push that needle. And the way I always advise people is, if you're a workaholic, by all means, do what you need that makes you happy, right? I love working. I think to me, that's part of my world. That's part of my life. But I also have a family, and to me, that's important as well. So I try to marry the two a lot. It's a very hard dance because you're always going to be judged outside. Whether you're a good mom or you're a good professional, you're always going to be judged. I think one of the things that I will say is, you have to force yourself not to care, because in reality, it's a balance that you have to set for yourself. It's not a balance that people give you. And so this work-life balance question is really, it's a double-edged sword, right? It's like, damn if you do and damn if you don't. And so in my mind, I'm doing everything I can to have my work-life balance. I'm happy what I'm doing, but I also want to include my kids in it, because I think it's really, really important for them to see that. Because if they don't see it, they can't embrace it. They don't have the ability to do things, just to kind of experience certain things either.
Yeah, what I'm hearing, I think quite clearly, is the self-awareness of that, right?
Correct.
And
Yes.
I do agree. Every individual is unique, and the definition of work-life balance is interpreted differently by those individuals. So what resonates with me is it's at top of mind for you. I hear that,
Yeah.
right? So, but you also are pursuing your own personal passion in business. So there's that.
You are. And here's the thing that I was, talk to a lot of mentees, is the fact that you're always going to have a passion and you're always going to want to do what you want to do. But I think what it comes down to is your acceptance of what you want to do, because you have one choice to make. Whether it's right or wrong, it's still your choice.
Mhm.
And I think what I hear from a lot of young kids is, well, I've been told this, it's either this or that, and I have to make a choice. My comment is, no, you don't. You can do both.
Mhm.
You just have to figure out where you draw the line. And it's not a matter of you not doing one or not doing the other and taking a choice here. It's whether you are happy about the choices that you made. And it's going
Mhm.
to come down to that.
Wonderful perspective.
Yeah,
Thank you for that.
it's really hard otherwise. Yeah.
Yeah. Man, I want to kind of look back. Tell me about some inspirational folks that you've encountered that may have left a lasting impression and maybe enhanced your entrepreneurial spirit. Who were those people? Who were your mentors or sources of
Well,
inspiration?
I hate to say it. I think the only one that really supported me through these times were actually my husband. He's the one that actually really believed in me. Like I said, I grew up in a world where I didn't really have the privilege of having a mentor actually guide me and say, you can do this or you can do that. I think it was until I went to college, and actually I was the one that paid for college on my own, that I met my husband, and he was the one that says, you know what, I believe you. You can go do it. And he's the one that really supported these endeavors and pushing me forward. So, he really was, I would say, really the pillar that was there just helping me get to where I am today. He and I talk a lot. So, there's nothing that passes without his not approval, but just, these conversations. But really, he was the one that actually said, yeah, you know what? Go do it. But fine, he supported me. But I think at the end of the day, it's really reading and talking to people, asking questions. And what I found with meeting people and getting engaged with people and learning like you're doing right now is it's so fascinating and so valuable, is the fact that they have different experiences, they have different thoughts, they have different ideas of how the world runs. And when you speak to them, it gives you a very different perspective as to how the world is and how big the world is, and at the same time how small the world can be too, regardless of who you are and what they do and what we do. So in
Mhm.
terms of mentors, I look at it as everybody becoming a mentor eventually, because you have these conversations, and I think for me, it's very thought provoking.
Yeah, absolutely. Evolving mentors. I like that,
Yeah,
right?
to
So
me,
that,
it's everybody.
yeah, learning from everyone every day, right? That's a great concept. Where do you go from where you are now? What's the big picture here?
you know, um, Really, it's just building a business and really doing what's needed out there. I think a lot of the bad press that you see out there about technology companies is like, oh, they're greedy and everything. I don't think we're that. I mean, our motto is protecting humanity in this digital world. And we really look at it from the perspective, if we start kind of embracing everybody and accepting and helping, right? The world's a different place. And where I see this going is if we can build that and really start thinking about mentorship and thinking of partnering with other organizations that are doing the same thing to help really foster the next generation. That would be something really that would I be interested in doing and seeing it happen. And that's really where I feel like this is going to be going, because for us, that's really the model that our business has always been, is, mentorship. How do we grow from it, organically in a sense? And how do we move forward from that? It's one of those things that I always laugh at, because I look at the Olympics and you see all these role models and I think it's phenomenal. But what do they do afterwards? They're mentoring, they're helping the next generation. And I really think businesses and corporations are starting to have the same mindset. And I really want to build the company right in that regard, so that way we can actually focus on that too eventually.
Wonderful. One final question. So, what advice would you offer to these aspiring entrepreneurs that I'm sure you have inspired today with your story? They're just starting their journey. What would you tell them?
Oh man, life's short, never give up. But one of the things I always laugh at is have a good sense of humor. I don't know you well enough to do stuff. Let's put it out, Jerry, because I'm a troublemaker by heart. I'll say really outrageous things to make people like, "What the hell did you just say?" Um, but really, I think have a really good sense of, and also be very, just be cognizant that it's a sick world out there sometimes. Have a thick skin. Don't let words just hit you really hard. I will tell you some stories where people just look like, I can't believe they said that. How could they say something like that? Guess what? People are ass. Excuse my language. People are a-holes and they will say stuff. I'm sorry, they do. And so you
Yeah.
just gotta let it roll off your shoulder and never give up and keep going, because if you don't do that, you never succeed. And the other thing is also, you're never always going to succeed. There's going to be a lot of hurdles you're going to be crossing over. And frankly, I will say this: if you think you're going to go to one, one audition or one, fundraising and immediately you're going to get a sign off, good luck with that one. The world doesn't work like that. You have to keep going and going and going and going until you've perfected. Otherwise, it's not worth it becoming an entrepreneur, because you're just going to have to face these hurdles one way or another.
Yeah, absolutely. You have to be passionate about it,
You have to
right?
be passionate. You have to have fun. You have to enjoy it. And you have to be able to just take over the world and just roll people. No, I don't not gonna roll people over. Let's not do that.
Yeah. Wow. Min, you are doing amazing things. You and your team. Thank you
Oh
again
my
for all
God.
this information. So, how can people learn more about all the great work you're doing?
Oh my
So,
God. All right. Well, they're always welcome to connect with me on LinkedIn. Just send me a note. It's that's the easiest way to get to me is on LinkedIn. Find me on LinkedIn, connect with me and have a conversation. I'm always open to actually having conversations with folks, as long as they're not selling me SEOs or any other software. I've done, I get annoyed with that. I get hundreds of those a days and I'm looking at it. I'm like, all right, I'm not going to buy anything from someone I don't know. But that being said, if you have a question about, just starting out or even just life in general, I'm happy to answer questions. I'm happy to talk to people. I think it's fascinating because you never know who's gonna be out there until you talk to people.
yeah.
And so feel free to connect with me anytime.
Min, thank you so much. This is such incredible information. I'm sure you have literally inspired thousands of people today with your great story. So, how do we get in touch with you? How do people learn more about you and your business?
You know what? Go through LinkedIn. Always the best way to connect with me. Don't send me anything obscene. I'm just kidding. Just connect with me on LinkedIn. I'm happy to answer any questions. I'm sorry. I'm just chuckling right now, just thinking about it. Don't send me any streaking videos or anything like that. Just keep it clean. No advertisements, but feel free to just send me a note on LinkedIn to ask, just say, hey, look, I heard where this conversation, we're able to connect with you. Please do that. And I'm happy to have a conversation with anyone. However, if that conversation leads to anyone trying to sell me stuff, Jerry, I'm coming after you.
Okay.
I'm teasing.
It's a deal. Unless it's something really, really good that you need, then it would be a blessing.
It'll be a blessing then, yes. Unless it's a deal, I'm kidding.
I've got you. I feel the same way.
I
Okay.
get so much
Well,
advertisements on LinkedIn. There are just days I get like hundreds of advertisements and I can't even filter through it all. So if I don't respond in a timely manner, I do apologize. It's
mhm,
because of that reason.
yeah. And how about your website? What's your website address?
It's www.amyna.io. It's AMYNA.io.
Okay. .io. Remember that.
.io. It's not .com. That'll lead you to if I remember correctly, that'll lead you to a philanthropy site.
Okay. We'll give a few dollars there and then go
And it
back
could
to
come to us.
well, good stuff. So, Min, thank you again. What a great conversation. Love your energy. To
Jerry.
everyone watching, this is Jerry Covella, and this has been From Dream to Reality, a Business Tale podcast. I look forward to seeing you all in our next episode.